problem.
Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 87 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, July 3rd, 2017, and I'd like to wish each of you a happy Dominion Day.
Hi, I'm Gavin, business owner, gun enthusiast, hunter, atheist, content provider for Toxic Kodiak Pathfinders, and host of the Greater Toronto Area chapter of the Tactical Beard Owners Club.
I'm Tim, sport shooter, owner-operator of Tim's Good T-shirts. They're quite good, and I'm also the proud descendant of immigrants.
We're doing our own intros now? How many times did Andrew need to flub them before you switched over to this?
About 80 episodes or so.
The really awkward pause.
All right, well, I'm Tyler. I'm a sports shooter, business owner, occasional hunter, etc., etc. That's pretty much all you need to know about me. I don't know. Interesting about me.
As always, I'm your host. My name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, a competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical.
Then we'd love to hear your feedback about the show, so please visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us at feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. The edited version of the show is available on Stitcher and iTunes. And if you use iTunes and you leave a 5-star review, put down in the comments section something you'd like us to drink for an episode, or more specifically, something you'd like me to drink, and the other guys may or may not if it's something delicious.
You remember that time we got wrecked on strawberry daiquiris?
Do I ever? Man, I was hungover the next day.
My whole office smelled bad.
When you sweat rum out, it reeks.
No, it smelled like strawberry lip gloss in my office for like 3 days.
It smelled like a windowless van.
That is not good at all.
It's bad.
Yes. We're strongly lacking Marty, and I didn't fix the show notes, so you can check the podcast out on Facebook, CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, or on Instagram, Instagram.com/CanadianPatriotPodcast. We need your help to support the show. You can visit Patreon.com/CPP to become a Patreon today. For just $1 an episode, you get the uncensored audio version of the show, and the more you pledge, the better the rewards are. We'll go into my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? It's where I ask, what are you drinking? We'll start with Gavin.
I am once again drinking the Canadian Club Small Batch and Coke Zero. Tonight might be the final episode where I drink this, because I will have finished off this ridiculously large bottle that I was gifted.
Tyler, what are you drinking?
I'm sipping on a bottle of Rickard's White, delicious wheat beer.
Tim, what are you drinking?
Drinking a delicious Heineken at the moment.
A Heineken? Does it have a reverse osmosis water?
No, I needed to get some fluoride into me. Contain my tea.
Although he did use the reverse osmosis water to create ice that he used to chill the Heineken, so...
It's weird.
They put chemicals in the water that make the frogs gay. Come on.
They put chemicals in the water that make the people gay. Look around.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
I think that's the drop we're looking for.
Thanks, Alex. He doesn't like that.
Man, I can't believe you got Alex Jones on your show. That's really moving up.
He only stops in at the beginning to talk about Tim's water.
Yeah. He's really, really upset about this whole water thing.
I mean, but he's very busy, so we can only get him just for a moment when we're talking about Tim's reverse osmosis water.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, that means we've had to bump a few people again, but, you know, it happens.
Step aside, Giltaka.
We can only get so many celebrities per episode.
Yeah, we had to axe the patriotic dirty limerick section.
Yeah.
This week I'm drinking Captain Morgan and Coke Zero, because Coke Zero. We should get sponsored by Coke. Coke, if you're listening, I'd like some sponsorship, please. Thank you.
I've got a contact with Coca-Cola. Should look into that.
Yeah. Alternatively, if you know anybody that works at wherever they make Captain Morgan,
Yeah.
apparently it's in Toronto. Okay. The more you know. Probably shouldn't be reading that during the show. Not a good use of our time. Let's go way back in time to the Galt Ontario Action Shotgun match. Like, what was that, a month ago now?
Yeah. A little way back playback for y'all.
Well, since we have Tyler and Gavin on and myself, and we all shot that match, let's talk about that match. Do you guys remember it?
I know that I was there. I don't remember what I did yesterday, let alone a month ago, but I seem to recall I did mediocre to poor at that one.
Yeah, my kind of takeaway thoughts on it were I was really impressed with how the Galt club has kind of almost similar limitations to the Watford club that we just shot at this past weekend, where you're fairly compartmentalized into like where you can put the stages and really what you can do. But they still found a way to make everything feel like new and interesting. And even like in shotgun shooting in general, you're, aside from a few interesting props, you're limited to shooting steel, clay, or slugs and cardboard, basically. But they still found a way to make it interesting and find new ways of challenging you. And I really enjoyed one of the stages in particular where they had both barricades and barrels obstructing your view of 90% of the targets, no matter where you set up to shoot. So it really forced you to slow down and to calculate, like when you goes to the stage the first 5 minutes before anybody shot, really kind of carefully plan how you're going to tackle the stage. It was a very technical match, I found.
I think that was stage 2, the rocking back and forth one you're talking about. It was a lot.
I'm not sure what stage it was, and we shot on different squads, and we could have potentially shot the stages out of order as well. So I'm not sure which one, but if that description sounds right to you, then sure.
It was a lot of targets, right? Like it was like
15 or 16
plates.
steel, yeah, and I think there were 6 clays as well.
Yeah, it was a high round count stage. It was 21 targets, I think, all in.
Yeah, so 15 steel, 6 clay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would. Yeah, I had some difficulty with that one. I pretty much shot the entire match middle of the pack because I'm shooting in standard manual, so it's just with a pump gun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty well consistently like between 8th and 10th out of 16 the whole way through.
But how did you do relative
stage
to your performance in the at the Guelph match?
I don't feel that it was anything significantly better or worse. I sort of had a middle of the pack performance at Guelph, as far as I remember. Somebody can go back and listen to our back catalog, help us with the downloads, and email me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I like to really carefully analyze those stats because that's how you gauge your improvement. It's easy to get middle of the pack match after match, but that might just mean you're keeping pace with everybody else's improvement. You might feel like you're treading water, or your shooting abilities have become like stagnant, but you actually are getting better. Just everybody else is getting better as well. I've noticed in the stats really tight clusters of shooters, all within like a plus minus a 1.5%. And so I'm seeing this league more so than last year. It's way more competitive, highly competitive.
Definitely. I find that looking at the stats for the league shooters in particularly, there's a knot of league shooters that are within a few points of one another, consistently within that.
Mm-hmm.
A few percentage points, a second here or a target there would make a world of difference to them. The one stage that I just absolutely destroyed, at least I felt like I did incredibly well on it, was the weekend stage where you had to shoot the shotgun weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was difficult.
I actually did not find it because I practice weekend because it's something I'm bad at. So I just went up and shot it the way that I normally practice shooting weekend, and it was my best stage of the day.
Nice. Yeah, I think I I mean, for people that have listened, I do have a blood clot. I had one in each eye, but now my weak side is the one that it sort of really plays hell with right now. And given that, I actually shot that stage surprisingly well, which was good. I mean, still overall not a great match for me at Galt, but that stage in particular, I was happy with my performance because I do have a bit of a physical limitation that really didn't affect me that badly on that stage, which was nice. So
I'm just trying to pull up the stats here. If you guys want to fill the dead air for another minute or so.
No,
I mean,
we'll
yeah.
just play awkward sounds. Oh, Tim, we have time for a dirty patriotic limerick.
Oh, my notepad just crashed. I had almost 100 of them.
Dear Canada, you.
It's not really a limerick, but
Oh, yeah.
it could be. I mean, I will say this about Galt. I mean, it's a nice club. It's massive. We did get in a little bit of trouble last year by having a beer, or allegedly having a beer in their parking lot. But, that's neither here nor there, really.
That guy didn't take too kindly. I'm pretty sure he had a beer in his hand while he yelled at us too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably had a few hidden in his stomach.
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's what we were trying to do, but
But that's good. What we need in Ontario is more massive clubs.
literally and figuratively,
Yes.
more base stick men.
Yes.
did
And
you guys
bigger
have
gun
any?
clubs.
Did you guys have any issues with any of the other stages or anything else weird?
There was one stage, I think it was the fourth stage, maybe the third stage that we shot, but it was the one where you were forced to really, really reach out and around barricades while your feet were planted in a tightly marked, like shooting box.
Mm-hmm.
I found that one particularly difficult because, obviously when you're in a hurry, you're, the timer's running. You just want to get to the target and do your thing, knock the steel down as quickly as possible. And sometimes you don't pay attention to your footwork. Had I, when I was shooting that stage, kind of cutting the pie, going around the corner, by the time I got to the last plate, I was taking that final shot while losing my balance. And fortunately for me, the shot, it landed, it hit and took down the steel. So I was fine. But had I missed, I would have, stumbled a little bit and had to reposition. It would have cost me a ton of time. So like the way, a big lesson there, the way to tackle that is to come in and kind of get low and hang one leg way out to keep the weight balanced. You got to pay more attention to that when you're looking the stage over before you shoot it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's one of the things that I was mentioning earlier. Like it was a very technical match. You had to approach everything carefully to maximize your performance. I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
To that point, I had a problem with the gas can stage, the walking backwards. So the idea was at the beginning of the stage, pick up the gas can, run all the way to the forwardmost point, drop the gas can, shoot the targets that were furthest from the starting point, and then work back. At least that was how I did my stage management.
Mm-hmm.
You had to get rid of that gas can before you could do anything. The getting back thing, though, without breaking the 180s and staying inside the shooting box was challenging.
Yeah, again, yet another stage design where you're forced to really think about when you're going to take your shots, where you're going to take them from. I know that was one thing that I did notice. I think Gavin and I commented on it while we were shooting it. Is some of these shots you were taking really, really tight up against the 180, but it forces you to slow down unless you want to just wing it and get DQ'd. Yeah. So then it forces you to find that balance between where you're slow enough and you're confident you're not going to do anything unsafe or blow any shots, but then of course the competitive aspect of it pushes you to the limit where those skills start to fall apart. That stage in particular, I saw, there's basically one of two ways of tackling it. You could do what I think all of us did, where you drop that gas can in the box, and in this stage you had to start empty as well, and you couldn't take any shots until that gas can was in the box. I don't know if that was mentioned, but then walk backwards, taking out all targets as they present themselves. Some other guys, they would go deposit that gas can and then run immediately back to the start and then engage everything while moving forward.
That's what I did, I believe, on mine.
Oh, okay.
How did it work? Because I found the going backwards thing to be, I was constantly looking for targets and having to stop because I'm like, oh, that's a 180. Can't hit that one. Go back a little further. Look right, look left, see if I'm there yet.
There were so many targets to your left and right and like tucked behind barrels and everything that like you were still constantly scanning. But at least I knew that like I wasn't going to break the 180, especially on some of those sort of targets near the front of the stage that were the ones that were super, super close to that.
Mm.
Because they kind of appear and then you shoot them, as opposed to kind of going backwards and then kind of catching it and maybe it's too late or.
Yeah, this is why I wear the GoPro. I can go back and I can view how I tackle things and see where I picked up time that I didn't need to and things like that. And then, all your mistakes, then you can review and learn from them, carry it over to the next match. Now this stage, just looking at the score breakdown, I actually did fairly well in that stage. I was 10th out of 76 overall, third in my division. So that stage treated me fairly well. And looking back at it, there wasn't really anything that went wrong, just a few like stuttered steps here and there.
That's good.
But that was a fun one. I enjoyed that one, actually.
I like that.
It was
one.
different.
A lot of the frustrating aspects that kind of piss people off, I genuinely enjoy. Just for adding something new to the sport. It's not just knock everything down, destroy everything you see, but now it's almost like it's if you introduce say cover rules. It will force people down and force people to plant their feet in a specific shooting box, only expose so much of their body. But that's really hard to judge as an RO, how much is too much. So when you have very strict rules as to what your safe shooting lanes are, like the 180, or you can alter it to be whatever it needs to be to suit the stage. Then if you either break it or you don't. So that's a lot easier to enforce, and it's objective. It's the same for everybody. So you can have a similar effect on the shooter, where you force them to kind of engage everything in a very like technical manner, and just adds a new facet to something that could get stale. So I thought it was a well designed stage and a fairly well run match.
Yeah, no, like I said, I really liked it. Because it was different. Then looking at the score, Andrew, I guess my strategy worked out slightly better than yours because I'm two slots ahead of you on that stage.
Oh well. All right then.
So marginally better.
Do you guys want to tell me about what happened at Watford this weekend, since I couldn't make that one?
Yeah, high tea happened.
Yeah, there was thunder, there was lightning, there was shotguns. It was a great day of shooting on the birth of our great nation.
It was a great match. We got a little bit of rain, but it wasn't too bad. It wasn't anything like the first match. It went really well. And Gavin, I was just saying in the pre-show, how much better he is doing now that I mentioned the blood clot. That's making a huge impact in his shooting ability. He's in the first couple of matches, and like last year, he would leave a few targets standing just because just couldn't see them. But now that's changing. So look out.
Which is drastically, I think, affecting the first two matches this year were kind of not great for me, but this one was by far my best. And last year was really like my first go at sort of competitive action shooting. So, it's all still, like a learning experience in terms of competitive shooting. But I mean, every match, is getting a little bit better, and every stage is getting just that little bit better. So,
right on. So anyway, details of the match. Some of the stages, one of the stages in particular, was basically lifted right out of the playbook from last year. It was pretty much identical. In this match, we used slugs. I don't recall if we used slugs in match 1 or 2 this year. I don't think we have.
No, they were supposed to have some.
Definitely not.
Yeah, but they pulled them because of the weather due to patch cardboard in the pouring rain.
Yeah.
So so we had slugs this time, just like last year at the same club. 4 targets, and they were placed within the stage where you would have to do some sort of ammunition changeover at some point. So my game plan for that was exactly what it was last year, and that was to engage all the shot targets that were in front of me, and then when I approach like the second kind of firing zone, fire in 4 slugs, and then once I get there, drop the shot on an available steel, and then immediately move on to the cardboard targets. I didn't notice anybody, at least in our squad, that messed up the round counts and fired slugs at steel or anything like that. But everything worked out. My game plans, for the most part, worked out, except for the final stage we shot. That one did not go so well. It was easily my worst stage of the day. I think the guy that got first place on that stage, his time to complete it was half of mine. So that was pretty bad, but I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the stats here.
Anything else? Yeah, particularly exciting or challenging?
I mean, they were fairly straightforward stages. I mean, because of the limitations of the club, you could really only shoot in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their club, I mean, it's basically just an open field, and then a 1 pistol rifle bay down at the end. So, I mean, for what they had to work with, they did a great job. But, I mean, you're sort of shooting everything straight in front of you, and that's it.
Yeah, so one thing that was interesting, one way they mixed up what would otherwise be a fairly static course of fire. First stage that we shot, you had to shoot from a seated position, which I don't think we've done in the league ever.
No. A few seated starts, but no seated shooting.
Yeah. So you had to shoot the whole thing from a seated position and start, with your hands off the gun on your knees, back up against the back of the bench. It was interesting. You could tell that it really messed up with a lot of people's muscle memory for loading. They were grabbing at things that weren't there, or grabbing and catching shells that shouldn't have been there, things like that. So it was an interesting little twist just to throw people off their game a little bit. And then the other thing was virtually all of the stages, I think 4 out of the 6, incorporated something into their stage design where it would be advantageous to shoot while moving, and not just get to a spot, plant your feet, and then take out everything and then move on. There was ample opportunity to take out targets when you're moving from point A to point B.
Yeah,
which is another skill that a lot of guys don't develop, and some of that you can't blame them for it because ranges might
shooting and moving. Yeah, that can be a difficult thing to practice.
Yeah, so. So there was an opportunity there for people who, find a way to practice that, to pick up a little extra time. And, I like that. This is a challenge, and then everybody can shoot the match, come home and be like, wow, when I'm moving and trying to take out those clays or knock down that steel, my muzzle is bouncing all over the place. So, I need to really kind of work on that. So like everybody's walking away with lessons, to try and become a better shooter. And I think that's part of the fun. It's one of the reasons why I like the league. It's not only challenging, just kind of on its own merits, like, okay, how do I tackle this course of fire and, get everything completed in as quick of a time as possible, but it's also the people that are shooting are, we're all kind of obviously, there are guys that consistently round out the top 3, but I mean, we're all kind of in the same ability, bracket where it's highly competitive. Like I said, I'm looking at the scores now for match number 3. We have, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys that are all within like 2% of each other. spanning from 77 to 79% of the top shooter. So that, that's just a huge block of guys that are all kind of shooting at the same level, highly competitive, and everybody's going to finish the league as a better shooter. And just to kind of give you an idea, I'm looking back at match one. Match one, my score relative to the top shooter is 66%. Match two, 74%. Match three, 78%. So I'm seeing my scores visibly improve. It's right there in the data.
Yeah.
That's huge.
It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, do you suppose it's just because of the more shooting, or just that you're being more competitive with other good shooters?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Like, it's been a while since I've been on the show, and it's really been a while since I've been able to crank out a few episodes of my own show. But Matt and I talked about it on our show an episode or two ago, where I was just saying that since my baby came along, I haven't had the opportunity to really do any shooting. When we did the fall charity shoot, I ran through our shotgun course of fire, and prior to match one of the OAS league this year, that was the only shotgun shooting I had done since match 5 of the OAS shoot last year. So other than running through like a 15-shot course of fire, I hadn't shot since last September. So I fully expected my skills to be a little rusty. So I'm seeing my skills are improving because the courses of fire are challenging me to improve my skills. I'm seeing my skill improving because I'm being placed in a pool of people who are better than me. And not only am I more motivated to try new things and tackle things differently, but I'm also learning from them just by watching them, how they tackle things. And then I'm also just kind of shaking the rust off, and I'm seeing some of my old skills come back now that I'm able to kind of hit the range on at least a semi-regular basis and get back to doing some serious shooting.
Good stuff. Okay, with the topic of serious shooting, I guess that's why I didn't make Watford and didn't shoot the OAS match. Jeff, former panelist and contributor on some very early episodes of the show, and I spent the weekend in lovely Minden, Ontario, at the MilCun Training Center. Minden isn't actually that exciting. I'm building it up way more than it is. So Keith Cunningham and Linda Miller are world-renowned top-level shooters. Linda's former Olympic-level shooter. Keith was a military shooter for several decades and involved in target rifle and service rifle type competitions at the national level here in Canada. And they have a couple of books that are available. So they're people that I've looked at doing courses with before, but to go up to MilCun and spend the time and the money to drive there and have a big round count and spend time in the bustling metropolis of Minden has been low on the list up until this year. I was asked by a bunch of people that I shoot ORA, CQB, and service rifle with to put together a program with Keith and Linda. So I sort of organized things from the shooter side, and they ran their course like normal. So I just got, shafted into doing all the administration nonsense.
Sounds about right.
So, yeah, so we had 10 people go up that are all people that I shoot with regularly with service type events. And Jeff and I carpooled and shared a hotel, and it was an interesting adventure in the bustling metropolis of Minden on the long weekend. We stayed at the hotel / bar / post office.
Nice.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend staying at the Dominion Hotel in Minden. It was the rooms were fine. The bar was not very good. No, and I'm like, oh, this is all going to work out, right? It's Dominion Day. They've got Friday night we rolled in, and the Land Shark Jeep was there with the girls. Were just setting up the Land Shark can on the sidewalk, like the big, 15-foot tall inflatable beer can. I'm like, okay, this is shaping up to be a pretty good thing. Yeah, no, chicken wings were terrible, and the beer was, I suppose.
So just a little bit warmer than it should be, a little flat.
I'm a little flat, a little overpriced for still being where it was, but yeah, wouldn't recommend staying there again. But we went and we did our thing. We spent 2 days on the range with Keith and Linda. They had an interesting program. I've never had instruction on the civilian side quite like that. Keith military background really comes through with the way that he teaches. So Saturday morning was entirely classroom, lecture style. And it was completely back to basics, very fundamentals. How does breathing work? Nomenclature for what the pistol is, various parts of it, just to get everybody on the same page so everybody's speaking the same language, and then getting into the biomechanics and how things work. How does grip, stance, sight alignments, triggers, how does it all interact with one another? How to call your shots. Like, he actually went through and explained the process of calling your shot, whether or not you think you've made a good shot or not. And they went through all of the mental marksmanship stuff that they have in one of their books. So it was interesting to get their perspective on that, but it was a fairly dry morning with just lecture style with the PowerPoint. Lunch is very good. They have a private property. I wouldn't even estimate. I couldn't estimate how big it is. 1,000 acres, maybe more. It's an absolutely massive property with a series of ranges on it. So they have a classroom out the back of the facility that's sort of like a hunt cabin. There's a wood stove, and they have it set up classroom style with tables and chairs and a lectern. So they have barbecues out there, and Linda makes everything up for lunch on site. The food was great. And then in the afternoon, we went out and we started doing fundamentals, and it was grouping for most of the day, putting rounds on paper. And a big part of it was getting everybody's guns zeroed, because there's apparently a lot of problems with getting pistols properly zeroed. So it was just a lot of, I think the first day was probably close to 200 rounds, a little bit shy of 200 rounds. It was mostly zeroing and grouping exercises. And then, back to the Dominion Hotel for more beer, and we actually ended up going somewhere else for dinner. We didn't partake in the chicken wings 2 days in a row. But
did you leave them a lousy Yelp review?
No, they don't have a Yelp or the internet.
Rough.
Yeah, so we went. A bunch of the people on the course got together, and we had dinner sort of the next town over, because it's cottage country. So if you don't like where you are, just drive 10 minutes, because that's where the next thing with people is.
Pretty much.
Sort of. It's up in Minden, Halliburton, sort of area. So just drive 10 minutes, you'll get to another little community.
Yeah. Well, if you ever go up there again, let me know, because the hunt camp is about a half hour down the road from there. You can stay there for free.
And I'll bring my own beer, and the service will be better.
Yep.
Internet will probably be about the same, but that's okay. Actually,
we get pretty good cell signal out there. There's no running water though, so
that's okay. I can live in austere conditions. That's fine.
But the outhouse functions a-okay.
So, our day 2 course, it was half an hour in the classroom, 40 minutes in the classroom, whatever in the morning, just reviewing the previous day's adventure. And then we went through a program that they call the 50 Club. So it's, in order to get into they have different varieties of this, but their slow 50 Club is what they started with. And it's 50 shots consecutive on I want to say it's a 3-inch by 3-inch square at 5 yards. And we've been shooting the previous day at 5, 10, 15 yards. So day 2, back at 5 yards, zero the guns, make sure everything's working, and then do this slow 50 Club. So in order to get into the club, you had to fire 50 consecutive shots into the 3-inch square, which doesn't sound incredibly challenging, right? It's 3-inch square. It's a pretty big target. Yeah, no, I got to 42, 43, and 44, and I never quite made it to 50. So I was just getting psyched out. So every time I'd have one that was just a hair outside of the scoring zone.
Just a sea hair? Just
maybe bigger than a sea hair, but just
so a
enough
red
that it was
sea hair.
Yes.
That's the biggest sea hair. Everybody knows that.
For the people on the course that got through the slow 50, it was basically just unlimited time. You could do it however long it took to do it, was however long it took. But if you didn't get a hit, start over, try again. Which is actually where they got, I would say, most of their round count for the weekend was from this activity. So I burned a significant amount of ammo just trying to get my 50 shots onto the Like, I made 3 attempts, and I got 42, 43, 44, and I didn't quite make, because every time I'm like, okay, last mag. Oh, I pulled a shot, and I'm out by, a quarter inch or an eighth of an inch. Enough that it was out, but just, it didn't matter because it was out. So anybody that got through that got to do the Fast 50. I want to say they had 30 seconds for each 10-round string, and it was the same thing. It was 50 consecutive shots. So whatever that works out to, 2.5 minutes to do the whole thing. So it was an interesting exercise. Their big focus is on the fundamentals and the mental side of the shooting, making sure that you're always practicing the perfect shot and getting the perfect trigger pull and not worrying so much about the shot that you don't make, but focusing on the other 42 that you did, in my case. We actually had a couple of people on our course attend. I think there was 4 people, maybe 5 people that got into the slow 50, and I think we had 1 person get into the fast 50 club.
Nice.
It was an interesting exercise. That's where most of the round count from the weekend came in. We went through IAs and stoppage drills, and then in the afternoon we did 2 of the operational pistol course of fires that they do. They have they're involved in the Operational Shooting Association, so they have their own standard courses of fire that they run through on a regular basis. So we did a couple of their matches, more for the application of what the match was supposed to be for. So the match that I won was the magazine change match. So at whatever the yardage was, 10 or 15 yards, it was like fire 4 rounds into a target, do a mag change, fire 4 rounds into another target. And it was scored out of 100 points with Feebles, and I ended up getting 90-something, 97 points and 14 Feebles, which put me ahead of everybody else by, again, just a red C hair, because I think the next guy was like 1 point behind me and 2 Feebles down. So, it was an interesting experience. It was a lot of instruction, a lot of focus on the fundamentals. It was definitely a good time to be going to a course with other people, though, because like all 10 of us that shot together have all been shooting CQB and service rifle and ORA events together for, I don't think there's anybody that I haven't shot with for at least a year, so we all know each other pretty well, so it was easy to, go out for dinner with people and hang out, and being able to carpool with somebody that and then stay with somebody was made for a pleasant weekend.
Yeah.
Well, it was nice to shoot the OAS match with a friend, and actually a lot of familiar faces on our squad. The camaraderie was just as good where we were. You were sorely missed. You and Marty. Marty shot it the following day, I believe. But you and Jeff were both missed.
Yeah, the camaraderie was as high as the T levels.
Yeah, exceptional. Like levels that shouldn't even be possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing things happen when you're in a high trust.
Well, I mean, everyone was armed, so there was no reason not to trust anybody, right?
Yeah, but I guess if I was in an environment full of people that I couldn't trust and they were all unarmed, I would be like on edge. But I never feel safer than when I'm at the range.
Okay, so strange anecdote. I had an interesting experience today because I did have I had some ammunition problems on the weekend. I had a couple of squibs and had to switch over to factory ammo. So I went to go and burn the 500 odd rounds that I had loaded up that I didn't get to shoot on the weekend. And I had a very interesting experience with an obvious firearms owner. He had CCFR stickers on his vehicle. Right? So, like, this should be a person who's, a gun guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I walked up to our plate rack and, I introduced myself because I didn't recognize the guy. I said, I'm Andrew. I'd like to join you. Is that okay? Oh. Okay, I guess. All right, cool. I'm going to go grab my stuff. I'll be right back. I'm just going to shoot some 9mm. Is that all right? I have a bunch I have to burn. And the guy was really, hesitant, and I walked back to my truck to get all my crap, right? Because I have bags of ammo and guns and all this stuff that you have to move. But I figured I'd, ask the guy that was at the range before I just started encroaching on what he was doing in case he was doing something that he wanted, alone time for whatever he's doing.
Polite. Right?
Yeah. So I figured, he's using the plate rack, but there's no reason why he can't shoot while I load my mags and vice versa, right? The way that we normally shoot plate racks.
Yeah.
So by the time that I had walked the 5 steps to my truck to get the first thing to turn around and come back with, he started packing up all of his stuff, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, well, I'm just going to wait until you're done. Like,
weird.
Okay, like, I have 500 rounds of ammo to burn, though. Like, this is going to take a minute. Like, he's like, no, it's okay. I'll just wait till you're done. Like, okay, are you sure? Because I didn't want to, like, encroach on what you were doing. I just figured we could both shoot at the same time. He's like, no, that's okay. I'll just wait till you're done. So he went and sat in his car for 2.5 hours.
Weird. It's almost like he's probably making RCMP wages, 2.5 hours. It's all money in the bank, right? Taking notes on, on what you're doing.
I didn't understand it. And he had like a CCFR sticker on his car, but I don't know the guy. I didn't recognize him. I didn't see his ID badge for the club, and frankly, I don't care because the gate was down, so he had to have had one to get in, I figured. So I'm like, well, if he doesn't want to shoot with me and I have offended him in some way, well, I asked, too bad, I'm going to shoot my ammo. And then, 2 and almost a half hours later, and he finally, I was packing up all my stuff, and he got out of the car and he asked if I was done. I'm like, yep, packing up all my stuff, ran out of ammo. And then he, came back over, and as I was leaving, he started unpacking and went back to whatever he was doing. So I don't know what kind of
really friggin' weird.
Yeah,
right?
Similar experience. So, yeah.
I thought it was odd.
All right, well, I'm going to go with the theory that the guy was there to observe you.
Yeah,
probably spent 2.5 hours whacking off in his vehicle.
Well, I am an attractive individual. It's hard to fault him for that.
It's the beard. It gets them every time.
Every time. All right, Tim, do you actually have a patriotic limerick?
Yeah, you guys. It's not a patriotic dirty limerick, but it's a patriotic limerick. I made it when you guys were talking about shotguns.
Tim, are you in a large vat of water?
No, am I?
Yeah, you sound like you're in the Yellow Submarine, man.
Right now?
A little bit.
Yes, right now.
Oh, we had this all set up in pre-show. This is really...
Okay, let's
move on until that gets rectified.
Let's come back to Tim later and see what happens. We'll go into the news. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the news, but we have 3 stories tonight about the shiniest of ponies. First one's non-news, but it's from Global, and actually, I take that back.
Global.
Okay, yeah, he made a faux pas. So Justin Trudeau was giving his Canada Day 150 speech about how we have no core identity as Canadians and so on and so forth. And he was specifically listing off provinces because I guess it doesn't matter which province we live in, but we know that we can embrace our diversity and something hearts and minds. I don't really. Unlike Marty, I'm not cutting up clips of Justin Trudeau to play back, and Marty's not here tonight, so you're just going to have to take my word for it that he said we live in and listed a bunch of provinces, and we embrace diversity or something. And he neglected to mention Alberta, which, okay, he named every other province, but I'm not faulting him for, I know the internet's freaking out about this because he's like, Alberta shouldn't have to pay transfer payments now because they're not being included by the federal government. No, he probably just forgot when he was reading off of his cue card because it's a big list of provinces, right?
Yeah. But, if you get all of the others and miss only one, and you're the prime minister, that's a pretty big faux pas, especially given that he's a drama teacher and should be used to memorizing lines. Just saying.
Do you suppose he actually memorizes his lines? I figured he would have read this sort of a thing off of a prompter.
I'm assuming he does read off a prompter, but one would think, given that he has a drama background.
Well, first of all, I find it very strange because when I was doing the provinces back in grade 4, I would always forget Manitoba, not Alberta.
But everybody forgets Manitoba.
Yeah.
I mean, and I could understand if like they started like asking the people on this panel, because when we were in school and learned it, Nunavut was not a territory at the time. So I kind of forget about that one sometimes. And then I go, oh, wait a minute, and this one, because they made that one after the fact. But, you know, Alberta's been around for a while.
So I agree. I think it's entertaining from my perspective that the light right, if you will, the conservatives that are only conservative in that's the party that they vote for, are all freaking out that they didn't include Alberta. This is the worst possible. No, he probably misspoke, but it is interesting that Alberta was the province that got forgot.
Well, I've never been one to shy away from the tinfoil, and like his father hated the West, and I really
and the West hated his father.
Yeah, it was reciprocated. But and I always thought his reaction to the Fort McMurray fire was absurdly slow and weak.
Oh, it was very low T. Very low. Which is kind of entertaining, and I think that's what's kind of feeding into the conspiracy theory, like that it wasn't maybe it wasn't intentional, but maybe it was a little Freudian slip, if you will.
Yeah, because like it comes down to like this guy's incredibly inept, and yet like he probably just like, except in this instance, it was a definitely an intentional slight. But
yeah. All right, the next one that we've got. This comes to us from wrong button. CTV News. What does this button do? Nothing. This button does nothing. Okay, good to know.
Ejection seat.
Yeah.
You're going to get a letter from a guy in Germany that says, cut it out.
Well, so be it. If that's what happens, that's what happens. From CTV News, apparently Justin Trudeau had time to visit the cast of a new X-Men film. Not that this is really news. I find this entertaining. That this is from June 28th. So basically, the first thing he did after Parliament's out of session is he went and found a movie to go take a selfie with a bunch of people making a movie. Like this is what our prime minister does now, I guess.
Well, he probably saw X-Men, got to the site, and was sorely disappointed to find out that it was a comic book movie.
Thought it was a documentary.
Thought it was something. That's all I'm gonna say.
He was expecting 100, 120 guys.
He was expecting a standard fuck party.
Yeah, again, not really real news, nothing really exciting, but yeah, June 24th, so right after Parliament is finishing up, and he goes to get an Instagram posted for him with the cast of a new X-Men film, because I guess that's what our prime minister does, is he takes selfies and I don't know, appeals to a particular demographic, like
people that read comic books and not the news.
I guess. All right, last one. The very last one. This one is actually like real news, and I'm surprised that it's making it onto CTV, but I'm not entirely shocked that this was something that was brought up as Parliament closed, because then it ended any ability for the opposition parties to debate them.
Gets memory hold.
Oh, it's super memory hold. Trudeau blamed the opposition.
Gets hold, all right.
Trudeau blamed the opposition for electoral reform failure and the current budget deficit. So apparently the reason that we didn't have electoral reform or a balanced budget any longer is because the Conservatives were in power until a year ago when the Liberals got elected.
I thought the reason they didn't have a balanced budget is because the balanced budget was lava.
Well, you have to balance the budget from the heart outward.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're growing the economy from the heart outwards. I mean, numbers don't matter. It's all about the feels, man.
And the budget will balance itself.
God, this guy is just a national embarrassment.
Right? So, the Conservatives handed off a small surplus. I think that's a reasonable statement based on the scale of our economy.
Although every time I hear that surplus referred to, that number keeps getting bigger. It seems like like $1 billion. Now it's like $7.5 billion. It's like nobody ever seems to be able to actually calculate what the surplus was. I think the number just changes depending on how the media feels about the Liberals at any given time.
Whether or not they've signed up for more money to the CBC or not.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, regardless of the actual dollar value, it's hard to argue that the Conservatives ran with some type of a surplus, however modest it may have been. So I'm not sure how, after a year in government and the Liberals giving away literally billions of dollars to other countries to support infrastructure projects and farmers in Afghanistan and all of the other UN pet projects that Trudeau's been working on to get his peace prize, I don't know how they can, with a straight face, blame the Conservatives for not having a balanced budget. The budget deficit is the fault of the previous leader, or the previous majority party. Or that's not correct. The previous governing party. That's probably the best way to phrase that. The previous governing party. And
I could see like if they left you like a shitstorm, I could see that being the case. But yeah, if there was like even zero money in like, the bank account, like if it was just like not plus or minus anything, dead on zero, you couldn't even complain then, like but the fact that there was even a couple of bucks extra,
there was a surplus of some amount, and they've managed to give money away to other countries.
Yeah, but that's Harper's fault because he is the devil. He made
the devil.
He made them do it. Yes,
Imagine Hitler. Harper, like behind the curtain, like vigorously rubbing his hands.
Oh, you mean like
the architect of everything?
You mean like when he somehow made Trudeau elbow someone in the tit?
Yeah.
Just by being in the room.
He was in the room. It was obviously it was his fault.
Pulling the strings. He's got like a string tied to Trudeau's elbow. Just give it a good yank.
Mr. Harper? Yes. We got that 2-year-old Turkish boy.
Yeah.
Excellent.
We took him out. Clean, no evidence.
Yeah.
The electoral issue also bothers me that they're laying this at the feet of the opposition parties, because this is something that the Liberals campaigned on. This was like a core platform piece in their campaign, and they went so far as to create new cabinet positions to secure it, and appointed Gavin's favorite MP to be in charge of it.
Yeah, and then basically they still haven't come good on another campaign promise they did that she got affected by, and they basically still haven't resolved that to the best of my knowledge.
So my take in this is just like, when you have a majority government and you're not coming through on your election promises, it's entirely your fucking fault. And I blame the people that voted for this government, and I blame them because they're going to believe what he said, that it is the previous government's fault, even though he's had a majority government for like a year and a half almost.
Yeah, I mean, even more so than the people that like voted for them because they wanted to vote for them. I blame the people that strategically voted instead of voting NDP, because at least then they would have maybe not had as big a majority.
Well, even the people, if you take the people who voted for him because he was anyone but Harper and ask them what Harper did, they have no fucking idea what Harper did. Tell you what Harper did. He
Yeah.
piloted us through a terrible fucking global recession. And
Yeah.
we were like the #1 G7 country, weren't we?
Yeah, and you know, he did it in such a way like it wouldn't, the policies that were enacted wouldn't be the policies that I would have chosen or would have, you know, specifically endorsed, but they were objectively better than what the other parties have done. And yeah, like we came out much better than any of the other like G7 countries. I mean, that's objective, it's verifiable, it's right there in the data.
Yeah, remember 4 years ago when he was in power and the dollar was on par, and we should have bought like a whole bunch of like guns.
Yeah,
at that price?
and I was spending like thousands on Brownells. You know.
Yeah,
I remember those days.
Yeah.
I miss buying stuff from Brownells.
I know, it was great, right?
Yeah.
You get everything.
Yeah, all those emails with Sandy about how to get this customs paperwork sorted out. I miss those.
Yes. One place, one order, one shipment.
Yeah, those were the days.
Yeah.
Brownells.
They throw a pretty
I have
decent
to figure
party
out-
too at SHOT Show.
That's true. That's where we met a lot of cool people at SHOT Show.
Yeah.
But here's the state of the modern Canadian gun owner. I just picked up a revolver, a Ruger GP100, grabbed it at the at SFRC, the ammosource.com. I got the Dillon conversion kit and projectiles from Select Shooting Supplies. I got the brass and the holster from Firearms Outlet Canada, and I have the Lee crimp die coming from Titan Reloading in the States. So I mean, just to get all set up. Oh, and the powder I got from Lowry's in down in Hamilton. So it's like you gotta know where to get this stuff. Otherwise, you're just gonna get screwed. Like
There is no one good
there's
one-stop
no
shop.
one
for that
stop.
sort of
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Other than Brownells, but with the
Oh.
dollar. Yeah.
and the dyes themselves I got off Amazon. Like, you know, it's just you got to go everywhere for everything. It's crazy.
Well, it's not even that you have to go everywhere. You have to know where everywhere is.
Yeah, I remember when I first started shooting, like, you know, guns that didn't have wood stocks. It took me forever to find a place that would sell me a crush washer. You know, now, you know, I could name you like 20 places where you could get one. But
Yeah, but I mean, with one of those, I mean, you could put a silencer on your rifle, Tyler. So those are dangerous. I mean, there's children, man.
that's
There's
why
children.
that's why they'll charge you $13 flat rate shipping for a $3 washer. That's the deterrent.
All right, what else we got? That's the end of everything to do with our favorite leader.
God, that guy sucks.
Yeah, speaking of which, I got a patriotic limerick.
Oh,
Do you now?
Well, let's hear your let's hear your patriotic limerick, Tim.
There once was a man from Ottawa who, when put on the spot, would and ah. He had more than one nanny. His resemblance to Castro is uncanny, and he often forgets Alberta.
Not bad.
That's pretty good.
Nice.
It's Justin Trudeau.
I hope you add that to the show notes so everyone can read that.
Yeah, I will. I will have to drop a cartoon for that one, Tim, and post that.
Limericks. I'm bringing them
Yeah.
back.
If our listeners go into the show notes and if you record yourself reading Tim's current patriotic limerick, and the person who reads it best, I'll send them something. I'll have to figure out what it is, but you'll get something. We'll mail you some stickers or a T-shirt or
Like I know
whatever
I'm
you can
awesome,
find in the
but
parts box.
the world's a big, wide place, and there might be someone out there with a better speaking voice than even I.
Yeah, send
There's
us your
somebody
best
out there with a
reading.
better microphone.
Check.
Send us your best reading of Tim's patriotic limerick. I swear to God. All right, let's talk about the charity shoot. God, by the time this comes out, we're going to be down to like 2 days from the charity shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt will be like in transit. He'll be his airport shuttle's
Getting
picking him
by
up
the
at
Tesla.
3:30 in the morning. The poor bastard.
Oh,
But that's how bad
Well,
he wants
we've
to
all
be
been
at
there.
this, so
Yeah.
you know, everyone else has no excuse. You should be there.
Yep. So is that
And,
is that the final push?
No, I was just going to ask:
But it's not-
are there still other podcast hosts who haven't registered? If so, fix
There are
yourself.
still lots of folks that I have talked to that said that they have not registered. We've got staff that we're expecting that are not registered. Honestly, just show up with your cash money. I'll take your cash money. I don't really care at this point. You're not getting a T-shirt because Tim's Good T-Shirts has made the T-shirts for everybody who was registered by the cutoff date.
It's a limited
So
pressing.
if you show up and if you show up and there's no T-shirt for you, well, I guess you should have registered in advance. It's not like you didn't have 6 months that we've been plugging this.
Yeah, tough
more
titties,
of that.
bitch. You don't get a
Yeah.
T-shirt. You know, how many? You were saying how many people we had registered, but I mean, I was under the impression that we had like 2 million or so PAL holders in Canada, and I'm pretty sure every Canadian gun owner has their own podcast. So registration's a little light.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really looking forward to getting a tattoo on my ass, but at the same time, it's for a good cause, and it'll make for some hilarious material for the podcast.
Yeah.
And good marketing. So
Gavin getting poked in the ass. That'll be a YouTube video. I'll get like 1 million hits.
Yeah. At least 120 times.
Curiously, all the hits will come from like Sussex Avenue. I don't know what that's all about.
No, I'm sure there'll be a few that like come from the Oshawa area too, but like whatever.
Anyway, yeah, so that's happening.
Podcast.
That's happening. I finished building. I was tasked with building a prop for one of the stages. I got that done a few days ago. It's looking pretty awesome. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I greatly appreciate you building the helicopter prop, because if I build it, that it would not have been the high quality construction that it gets with the Tyler treatment.
Well, I'm pretty sure Brian is ROing with me on that stage, and he's like a civil engineer, so I'm sure he'll like critique the shit out of it. But
he'll break out like a T-square or something and start measuring it up and like.
Well, hey, I mean, that's what I do. I mean, I do the work. He does the complaining and criticizing. That's his job. So
yeah. So what you're saying is that you generally have to
divisional labor.
You have to fix his plans, is what you're saying.
That's often the case. Yeah. He's like, well, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
Who the hell thought of that?
These theory guys are way off. This doesn't work in practice. Like communism.
Yeah. No, anyway, I mean, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I think the shooters are going to really enjoy it. They're going to enjoy all the stages that we have put together. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, the countdown is on. I'm really looking forward to seeing some familiar faces. We know we got the same boys from Quebec coming that we had last year, and they came all the way. They made the trip for the fall charity shoot as well. You know, looking forward to seeing those guys again. And we got a couple people coming, crossing the international boundaries to make it. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah,
we're going to have I think a strong American contingent from what I can see with registrations.
Nice. International,
Not
bitches.
just-
International.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that should be good. I'm looking forward to I mean, the countdown is on, so like part of my playtime at the range today was zeroing a rifle so that we can have it available for the Maple Seed Challenge. So if anybody wants to shoot an AR at 25 yards, I have a rifle that should hit close to where you point it.
Nice. Yeah, I was making sure that I'm all good to go for all that as well, and picking up some extra prizes from one of our sponsors, Land Shooting Supplies. They gave us like a bunch of stuff: a shotgun, T-shirts, hats, and all kinds of swag. So that'll be pretty sweet.
I think that means we're going to have multiple firearms to give away, right? That's
we will. Yeah, there's 2 shotguns. There's a pile of stuff. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out, not just to Lands and to Silverdale, which is my home club or one of my home clubs, but not this weekend of the charity shoot, but next weekend they have another a good charity thing going on at Silverdale, which is the Make-A-Wish Foundation charity shoot. So if you guys do have some money left over after spending it at our charity shoot, you should definitely go check that out the next weekend at Silverdale.
Well, it's a whole week.
Another
5 days to go and exercise your agency and earn some shekels.
Yeah, go wage cuck for 5 days and then give it all away.
Yeah, but another excellent charity to donate some money to. So charity shoot. It's going to be good. And the alcohol and chicken wings after. And Matt, I believe, has challenged people to a chicken wing eating contest. So,
is that a speed or flavor contest?
I believe it's however many hot wings or the hottest wings you can eat. So a quantity contest.
Yeah, it's always a volume. It's a meat volume content.
I recommend doing that on the Saturday night, not the Friday night, just because you don't want to be like shitting fire at the range on Saturday. That might not be so good.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a thunderbox on a 30-degree day. That is not like a good time.
I'm not your parent, so do what you want, but my advice would be to not do that.
Strongly recommend.
Yeah, and if you are going to do that, use the outhouse furthest away from the range so we don't have to smell it. That would be great.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that, but this week's going to be crazy. We've got a lot to get done as everything sort of coalesces around Friday with Matt's arrival on Thursday and people getting tattooed, and I have to go and visit sponsors and pick up ammunition, and we got our radio frequencies all sorted out today.
Yeah, we're going high tech this year.
Did we decide on a frequency? I may have missed that.
Yeah, we'll get you up to speed.
Yeah, off air.
Show.
Off air. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we are definitely not using Chinese radios that can illegally broadcast in the GSRM band at a higher wattage than they should be.
Nope.
Definitely would not be doing that.
Never do that. No. And you know what? The berms probably will protect us from.
Who said that? I don't want their names.
Guelph Mountain will shield everyone.
Yeah. Hey guys,
there's a lot of lead content.
We'll just use fake names, and they won't know who's doing it, right?
Well, I mean, the Guelph Mountain has a lot of lead content to protect the.
You can be Nevag.
I'm gonna be Tim.
I was gonna be Tim. I think it should be good. I think we're gonna have a busy week getting this ready, and I'm looking forward to getting everybody together in person on Friday and doing some carbine work. And
it'll be good to have everyone together. So I guess also stay tuned, because we'll have a special episode coming out on Friday or Saturday night when we're incredibly intoxicated.
Be a live stream crossover episode.
Yeah. With I guess everybody live, all in one place, all at the same time, which could be chaos, but will probably be fantastic.
It'll probably be terrible.
And we're gonna affect Canadian law as we put inebriation up as a defense against hate speech.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't consent. I
We should do the show like live in front of a large industrial oven.
Would be very warm and very loud.
It might better be, for a winter episode when it cools off, so we don't get so hot in front of it.
Yeah, Matt and I, we've been doing a holding pattern on episode 88, so our episode numbers would match up for the charity show.
Yeah,
looks like it's going to happen. Looks like it's going to happen.
It is, yeah.
Part 3.
I'm definitely looking forward.
Shoot, episode's going to be good.
Yeah.
So
maybe we'll even have anything else. Some of those other guys from other, like maybe get like Trevor and maybe some of the other people, so we can have like a super multi podcast crossover.
So we're gonna have like 20 people on the panel. Yeah, that'll be fun.
We need. I think we did the same panel as last year, at least for one of them, because we definitely need the return of Etienne.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And Matt passing out drunk.
We got to get a.
So if we could get if we could get an episode where Etienne is filling in for Matt because Matt is in the background sleeping, that would be my ideal episode.
I like it.
I was just thinking tonight, like if I had time, but I don't. But it would be nice to get a Etienne Seal Club shirt made up.
Nice.
Seal Clubbing, established 2016.
If you do, Tim, I know somebody south of the border that would gladly buy a Seal Clubbing T-shirt.
Yeah, it's a
Because
goal.
they were very, very upset to find out that as an American, they cannot come up here and partake in the seal clubbing.
They can't come up here and void their warranty, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we can probably wrap it up. I'm going to cut some of the nonsense out, I imagine, to just chop some time down here. Let's go through where people can find you, Gavin.
You can find me in person next week at the charity shoot and at the Ragnarok Tactical Carbine class. Otherwise, you can find me on the Instagrams at urbex_GTA or on Facebook with the Toxic Kodiak Pathfinders.
All right, Tyler, where can everybody find you?
You'll also be able to find me in the flesh next weekend, Friday and Saturday at the Ragnarok course and the charity shoot. You can check out my podcast, the Liberty or Death podcast, on Instagram at Liberty Podcast, or you can subscribe to it on iTunes and whatever. We mentioned the OAS shoots. You can find first-person video footage of the shoots on my personal Instagram, Tactical Patriarch. And otherwise, you could catch me here every now and again when I find time away from the family, and when I have the energy to stay up this late to do our thing.
I'm glad to have you back on, and the podcast has not been quite the same without you.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Are you?
I don't know.
I feel like you're fucking with me. Be like, God damn, I have to stay up late on a Monday night again to talk to those assholes. Ugh.
It's not about that. It's just about like, oh man, energy gets depleted all day. Just never ends. You'll find out soon enough.
Tim, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at the shoot, of course, and the various pub nights that are going to occur this next weekend. And you can find me online at timsgoodtshirts.ca and pick up some signal wear. And you can also find me at facebook.com/timsgoodtshirts. It's not very active, but it is up and running. So
I recently saw Tim Moen was wearing one of your good T-shirts.
yes, the poor guy. It was I sent him the shirt you're wearing, the Happy 150th Canada Taxation is Theft shirt, which is kind of just a libertarian joke kind of thing. It's kind of run its course.
It's an old meme. It's an older meme, but it checks out.
It checks out, yeah.
It is also a fact.
Yeah, it is a fact. But it's also, the shirt is turning out to be quite an autist detector. As it, he posted a picture of it thanking me, and then there's like people coming out and they're like, actually, as a paramedic, doesn't taxes pay your salary, Mr. Moen? Checkmate. And it's just like, yeah, but first, like paramedic, like first responder kind of things is the kind of thing that like a good person would subscribe to, And so I responded to that on Facebook, and I told the guy that actually I had it on good accord that his money wasn't going towards Tim Moen's salary. His money was going to Rainbow Crosswalks.
That's what we need more of, Rainbow Crosswalks. We should talk about that on a future episode. I just keep not including it because I don't care enough.
And someone did a burnout on a Rainbow Crosswalk. And they're saying it's a hate crime. Maybe it's just the love of burnouts. Anyway.
Maybe. If you want to get some firearms training, you can find me at ragnaroktactical.ca, Instagram and Twitter at edtactical. I have to apologize to Rod Giltaka. I'm afraid we couldn't fit him in again this evening. But maybe we'll see him at this year's charity shoot. That'll be 2 in a row for me if he shows up. For the podcast, you can find that. We have this website. It's CanadianPatriotPodcast.com or on Facebook, Facebook.com/CanadianPatriotPodcast. And remember, your hate fuels me. Send in your hate mail. Tell me how I made you cry. Feedback at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. For all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I'd like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.
Dude, I thrive on hatred. That's why I'm happy you paired me up with Brian.